and I keep noticing these patterns. And so I wanted to put this training on for you guys and for everybody in the group so that we can go and like just clear out, just do an audit of the things that we're doing so we can be way more successful and catapult. Can everybody who can see me right now give me a catapult? Catapult. Ooh, give me catapult. Shoot up to the sky. See, I love to get moving because you know what? When you're moving, because high energy equals high income. When you can get a lot of energy infused to what you're doing, you're actually going to energize all of your efforts. So wherever you are right now, bring your shoulders back, take a deep breath, and we are going to start the show. Okay. We are not sharing, we're sharing the computer sound, and here we are. And we are going to share this screen. All right, give me thumbs up if you can see the banner, the Wednesday web class. Awesome. Okay, this is an 89-minute. I said to block off 89 minutes. I don't know if we're going to get all the way to 89 minutes. But you know what? I'd rather have more time and then give you free time at the end, because one thing that I struggle with is when somebody says, okay, it's 60 minutes and then it goes an hour 15 or a little bit longer. And I'm like, well, now I have to miss the end. So I want to make sure that you guys, that I offer you a big time span. So if we get done earlier, then you've got a little bit extra time. You guys with me on that? Cool, cool. Give me a thumbs up in the chat. Awesome. I like interacting. By the way, this is not like, I'm not TV. I'm not just here for, you know, entertainment. I mean, I sort of am, but I'm more here for education, edutainment. But I want to know that I've got real people that I'm interacting with too. So yay, I'm so glad that you guys are all here. Hey, Rochelle. Okay, cool. So we're going to get started on this stuff because you know, this is just such good, valuable information. And when I started noticing these things, I was like, oh, we have to get the word out. So my goal today is to help you to avoid a lot of the pitfalls of new agents. And whenever you have a KTA or you feel like your mind has been blown, I want you to type it into the chat. Let me know what kinds of stuff are you noticing. All right, so, and if you're unsure at all how to proceed with your business, you're in luck, because everybody who attends this class is going to walk away with a ticket for a strategy session. So I want to say hello to everybody who is live. And also, if you're watching this in replay format, can you do #replay? All right. And I want to say hello to our VIPs. We have Laura here, who is working with us, and Dawn, Barb, Kevin, Eric, and Heather, who have joined the Catapult system and who are moving forward. So welcome in, VIPs. So today's agenda, a couple things we're going to talk about. And one of the things I want you to have in mind is that whether or not you choose to work with me as your coach or not, I want to show you the power of having somebody on your team rooting for you, in your corner, and the power of coaching. And that's why I'm gifting everybody at the end of this session, at the end of this web class, a strategy session. Meet with me, kind of map out where we're going to go over the next few months. So what I want to share with you today is how successful entrepreneurs think differently. And thinking differently is just the tip of the iceberg. It is the thing that is going to lead you to big results. You know, I'm kind of weird. Sometimes I think about that we are just little ants on a bigger apple, or on an apple in the middle of a picnic in a big park. Because if you think about, you know, there's millions, there's billions of people on this world, and there are a million ways to make $1 million. So why isn't everyone wealthy? And it's because thinking is different between this person and this person, between the ultra wealthy and the middle class. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a couple of behaviors and thinking patterns. because if you can behave like that and act like that, you can get the same result. And I'm a little bit weird sometimes because I think about, I wonder about the world, that we're all just these little teeny ants living on an apple in the middle of a picnic lunch in the middle of a park. You know, we are just a tiny little organism in the big microcosm of the world. And so what is it that makes one ant different than the other ant, right? Because the bodies are essentially the same. It's all about what is inside. It's about the mind. So we're going to talk today about what things successful people do differently. And, you know, I was trying to come up with this little ants and the apples thing, and I started thinking about, do you guys remember that movie Men in Black? Yeah, give me a thumbs up. Do you remember Men in Black? And I don't remember the whole story around it, but I just remember my mind was blown when they had this cat on there, and they're like, this one galaxy fits in this one necklace on this cat, and they were chasing the cat around because there was a whole galaxy in there. And I think, oh my gosh, our minds are, you know, we could be so small in the big scheme of things. We are so big in the small scheme of things that these are, it just blows my mind. So back to business, I want to talk to you about the 5 biggest mistakes that agents make and how to avoid them. And you know, when we talk about running a sustainable business in today's market, you know, no doubt that you guys have heard myths and exaggerations about COVID, and you've probably heard fake news like, get the vaccine, don't get the vaccine, wear the mask, don't wear the mask, don't wear the mask, it depletes oxygen, but doctors are fine when they do surgery, but get the vaccine because we need to save lives, but don't get the vaccine because it's not, you know, not tested. And then there's all these back and forth. And so and that is no different than what it is also in the real estate agent world, and their sellers are hearing these same things on the news and online. So when you are watching the news or when you hear any of these things, take all of these with a grain of salt, because everybody who says these things has an agenda. And so what I want to do, hey, thanks, Rochelle. What I want to do with you guys is give you a little bit more background knowledge into where these things are coming from. Because when you're looking to build a business, you want to learn the facts and you want to know what is fiction. Because if you're building a business based around fiction that's not real, that's fake news, well, that business is going to fail. And you need to base your business, base your success on facts. So, and on the proven methods. So that's the first thing we're going to cover today. And after we do that, we are going to talk about how to recession proof, and I'll give you a detailed step-by-step lead generation map on how to build your business and keep it going even through COVID, even with a shutdown. And the images are blurry on purpose. I'm just trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. So, and at the end of this, there is no sales pitch. There's none. You're not even going to be able to buy something if you wanted to. I rest assured, put your credit cards away. You don't need to spend any money. This is just to help you overcome where you are right now and get you on to the next step. And don't be that guy who is just looking at his phone and not paying attention to what's going on here. Give me your full attention, because this kind of information has the potential to be life-changing, to actually help you over a lot of the hurdles that you are struggling with today. So don't be this guy, be this guy. Be this guy who's watching and like super glued to the TV, to the screen, and is mesmerized because all of this stuff is just going to be gold dropping down. Now, I hope that you guys are going to have some aha moments. And when you do, drop them in the chat. I want you to let me know what you're feeling on the inside. What is making the big difference for you? And so that you can be the guy with the spinny eyes. If you have Facebook notifications or any other videos going on, you're chatting, put that stuff away and make sure you've got strong Wi-Fi and the volume up so that we can really plow through this. And take some notes, because I know some of you have been to some of my events before. You've seen me speak. I've talked to a lot of you personally. And repetition is the mother of all skill. Even if you've heard it before, you're in a different place now in your life than you may have been before. So when you hear something, it's going to resonate differently because you're different. So take notes, because your retention goes up if you take notes, even if you never read them again. And use the chat screen. Whoops. Use the chat screen to engage, because when you're engaging, this is when your brain says, ah, we're game on here. We're paying attention. Okay. So yeah, so even though you're a virtual event, your neurology says, I'm just trying to make sure I got all the things out of my notes. Yeah, so just use the chat screen, light it up in the chat screen. Now we've got some people who have just joined us. I know we had Rochelle jump on. Rochelle, where are you calling in from? We got Northern Virginia, Carl, we got Laura from Minnesota, we got Kevin from Montreal, Canada, we got Rochelle. Cool. All right, we got Courtney jumping in. Cool. Drop in the chat where you're from. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Rochelle, you're from calling in from Oklahoma. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Let's get started on some of this. Now, when I meet somebody for the first time, I like to kind of give them a background of where I am coming from. So is it okay if I share a little bit of my personal story? Give me a thumbs up if that's cool. Yeah. All right. And no, and I've heard you and I have, hey, Cardi from Maryland. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's my old stomping ground up in Northern Virginia. Now, when I give my background, I say it so that a lot of the stuff that I'm delivering makes sense. And now this is a little bit about me and my backstory. Now, agents started calling me the lead generation coach, and I speak at some events, and this is a photo from a speech I gave. And I was actually spending time with someone who knows real estate almost better than everybody else. This guy is also friends with Donald Trump. You see him down here? Does anybody know who that is? This is Robert Kiyosaki. He is the author of a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And, I don't care how you feel one way about Donald Trump or not. Running the country, that was an interesting experience. But because we're talking about business and real estate, there is no denying that Donald Trump knows business. There's no denying that Donald Trump knows real estate. So when I got the chance to sit down and talk with Robert Kiyosaki and have him just share some of his beliefs with what I'm doing in my life, I started noticing, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he thinks like that. Wow, that is an interesting thing to say. I wonder why he said that. And one of the things was that there was a question and answer session, and there was a guy that called to him, and this guy was like, I have $10,000. What should I do with it? And Robert Kiyosaki was like, that's the wrong question to ask. That's the wrong question to ask. And the guy was like, well, how much of my salary should I be investing in real estate? And Kiyosaki's like, these are not the right questions. He's like, this is not how you invest. This is not, you don't just, number one, you don't just shout out the amount of money that you have, or maybe it was 100,000. I don't remember what the number was, but just the fact that he's like, these aren't the right questions. And so I think at some point somebody said, what are the right questions? And then Kiyosaki was like, well, I need to know what your education in investing is like, what your risk appetite is, how old are you, how much stuff do you have put away, what is your, and so all of these background things, I'm thinking, oh my God, this is like, these are the beliefs that I need to start adopting whenever I'm thinking about an investment decision or talking to somebody about what they are going to do with their life moving forward. So by So by just being around him, I started noticing that this was, I was starting to adopt his beliefs. So when we are going through this, what I want you to do is pay attention to thought patterns. Thought patterns for what I say, whether they are congruent with yours, whether you feel like you have something different. I want you to pay attention to that, because when you notice the way you think is different than the way I talk, then we can start to have a discussion about why these things are like this, or what happens with here, or why do I believe this, or why do you believe this? And there is no right and wrong ways of thinking. There's only the roots that are in place and the outcome that you want. So while we go through this presentation, I want you to pay attention to what seems weird to you. What thoughts or things that I said, or are things, patterns that you've noticed? What is weird to you? What doesn't make sense to you? And these are the things I want you to write down on your notepad. Beliefs. And then what blows your mind? And when you notice these things, these are where you are going to notice that, whether it's me talking about Kiyosaki or whether it's what I've done in my life, I want you to notice where your thinking is and notice what you're being presented with. And again, right and wrong is all subjective. It's just about the outcome of it. So I actually grew up just in a typical American family. I have a younger brother. This is my mom. If you know my story, I hope you don't mind me sharing it again, because, like I mentioned, this is going to be, I keep going back and seeing my childhood and think, that's why I believe that. And my mom was a nurse growing up, and my dad was a mortgage broker. And, my parents supported me in whatever I did, sports or other things that I didn't really do much of. Actually, I didn't do many clubs growing up. They just said, study hard, get a good education, and get a good job. You guys see my screen? Yeah, got a lot of different things going on. Give me a thumbs up. You can see, right? Okay. Oh, I switched to the wrong one. There we go. So there's a little bit of slide confusion here. Oops, I don't want that. Okay, oh my gosh, I had a lot of windows open. So back to the story. So my parents said, they would support me in whatever I did, study hard, get a good education, get good grades, because someone who does can get a good job with a good salary. And then that was the archetype, probably like many of you, that was handed down for me from my parents. So I grew up studied hard, went to university for music. I became a music teacher for 5 years in an elementary school. And I remember the first time I got my $2,000 paycheck, I just about soiled myself because I had never made so much money. I was 22 years old getting handed $2,000. I thought I was going to be rich. It was the biggest paycheck. And so I went ahead and I paid my $1,200 in rent, my $300 to the car. Then I bought gas and groceries, and then I only had $300 left. $300 left. And it was about the end of that month that my bubble burst. How was I ever going to survive on a teacher salary with $300? And one of the veteran teachers at the time, Carol Strickland, gave some advice to me. She said, get out of teaching while you can. Get out of teaching. And so after about 5 years, I was fed up and done with being a broke teacher in Virginia, and I was so itchy for something else. I needed more out of life. So finally, I found a way. I emailed everybody I knew to ask them. I was like, hey, how do I go teach abroad? I finally got the clue. I got my first job in Syria and then in Dubai. And while I was in Dubai, I was a music teacher quote unquote successful because I had that dream job, a steady salary. I lived overseas, got to do lots of cool stuff. And I was the role model to my siblings because I was the only one who finished university. So I got that steady job and I didn't deviate from what I was supposed to do. However, I'm sure that many of you can relate to the fact that, that wasn't my life. That was my parents' life. And that was what mainstream wanted me to do. It's not I couldn't go on living for somebody else, continually living up to somebody else's expectations. And so that path can take you only so far before you start to feel empty and unfulfilled inside. On a teacher's salary, and I was so close to broke most of the time, especially living in Dubai, on just a teacher's salary. And so that was my life, 10 years as a teacher. And I was doing something that was okay. I mean, I was excelling at it, but I would never really be able to make money doing that. So that was my life, thriving at work, making waves, changing children's lives, teaching them the power of music, empowering them with the confidence and a sense of self-worth. And then I would go home and live a meager life. And so no matter how good I was at being a teacher, I wasn't going to get paid for it. I even did the math to try to figure out, okay, well, if I got a master's degree, if I got a doctorate degree, how much more in salary would I get to overcome the cost of getting the degree? And I couldn't make the numbers work. I couldn't make things work. And then I couldn't leave teaching because, well, I had invested all that time. I had invested all that money on accreditations, on licensures, on certifications, just to please other people, just to do what I was supposed to do. So after 10 years, I had enough. I came to a point in my life where I decided that I needed a change. I didn't know what change, but I needed to get out of teaching. I had been writing these phenomenal musicals, designing costumes, writing music, being this huge impact in all of these children's lives, teaching them how to be more than they thought they could be, to sing, to act, to dance. I learned how to and showed them how to design sets. But and all of this got me no more money. I kind of felt like I was being punished because I was the music teacher. Oh, because you're a music teacher, you need to spend another 40 hours at work putting on these productions. I mean, luckily I was resourceful in being able to do that. Have you guys ever felt like your boss, somebody that you've worked with, have asked more from you than they were offering to pay from you? If you ever felt that, type that in the chat. I want you to type that, say me too. Like I've been there. I've felt that. Yeah. Yeah, and it's just like, well, where does it end? Where does it end? How much do I give you before I give back to me? Yeah, yeah. And it was at this point that I just, I got to a point, I just started questioning everything. So I left music. I went and got certified in mathematics for secondary school, like high school, middle school, so I could get out of this music and all of its extras. Because I wasn't really sure how to leave teaching yet. So I thought, well, I'll just change my subject. After that year that I got certified in mathematics, it was September of that year that I handed in my resignation to be resigned at the end of the year. At the beginning of the school year, I said, I'm not going to work here anymore. And I gave them my resignation. And the universe must have heard me because they introduced me to someone named Eric. And this was from a cycling group that I was in Dubai. Now, Eric was a cyclist there, and I only met him because I was in Dubai. He said he had bought this apartment up in Norway, and this is like January, so I'm like, hey, I bought this apartment. I was like, oh, okay, you live in Dubai? No, he's gonna stay in Dubai. Okay, that's weird. I'm not sure why he bought a property. I don't know. It was like 4 months later. he said, "Hey, do you remember that apartment I bought?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, I sold it." And I'm like, "What? Why would you sell that?" Now, this is where my beliefs were clashing. I'm like, "Why would you sell an apartment that you bought in Norway? You've never lived in it. For like 4 months later, what's the appreciation going to be?" He said, "Well, I bought it for an investment." I'm like, "What kind of investment for 4 months? What kind of investment is that?" And he said, "Well, hold on, let me do some calculations. Let me do like Norwegian kroner or dirhams and then over to US dollars, early payoff, blah, blah, blah. He goes, "I made a profit of $83,000. $83,000, he said to me. That was like a literal slap in the brain, slap in the face, because my salary was 30,000 at the time. 30,000 working overseas in Dubai, and I was scraping to get by. Oh my God, I cannot believe. And so I started questioning. I'm like, "What kind of degrees do you have? How did you get there? What do I need to do to also get there?" And so he's like, "Well, I've got 2 master's degrees, this, and this." I'm like, "Okay, what would you recommend for me as a first step?" He said, "You need to read this book called The Intelligent Investor." Well, not only did I read The Intelligent Investor, I ended up finding out a bunch more books. At the end of that school year, so I was just like reading all of these books, just consuming, because I was ready to leave my teaching job. I didn't know what I was going to do. I quit my job I quit teaching. And at the end of that school year, I still didn't have a plan. So I moved in with the guy that I was dating at the time. I super appreciate him for taking me in. I kept thinking, like, what is my life about? What am I going to do now? If you guys have ever had one of these life moments where you're like, what is happening? What is happening right now? I want you to type in WTF into the chat, where you're like, I've left this. I don't know where I'm going. I am in this chasm of I have no idea what's going on. If you've ever felt like that, can you write a WTF in the chat? WTF, WTF. Yeah, awesome, cool. Because then you guys can identify, because at that point in my life, I had so much, we'll say, freedom, that I was so scared to have so much freedom because I didn't have the walls. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Yeah, Courtney, awesome. Yeah, you've also been there, felt the chasm of the unknown. What am I doing? Yeah, Laura, I hear you every day. And this is the point when I'm like, what am I going to do now? Why am I here? What am I going to do in Dubai? I've just given up my job. I've just moved out of my apartment without anything. I had no idea how to start a business. I wasn't fulfilled in my job. But now at this point, I'd been working as a teacher for so long overseas. I let my teaching license lapse, so I couldn't go back to the States. I didn't know what to do to go forward. So I was just reading like crazy. I read real estate investing. I read all sorts of investing. I did books on mindset, on psychology, on meditation. I practiced meditation to the resentment of my boyfriend at the time, and on personal growth. And I ended up getting connected with this one club called Meetup, which is where I met my business coach called Sunil. And it was based off of a book by Robert Kiyosaki, which was The Rich Dad Poor Dad. Now, the quote that he said in the book that I, again, was just what I hung on to for a long time: that great opportunities are not seen with your eyes, they are seen with your mind. They are not seen with your eyes, they are seen with your mind. I found the Dubai Cash Flow Club. Basically, it's a board game that teaches you investing. Because of that, I was able to find enough information. I did some creative things with apartments, and I got my own 5-bedroom apartment in Dubai, thinking outside of the box. I did not buy it, but the way real estate works in Dubai is that you have to pay the whole rent up front for the whole year. And then, all right, so most people don't have like $60,000. So then what I did is I bonded together with some friends. We're like, okay, let's get this apartment. And then we re-rented out each of the rooms to the people who were normal and had normal $2,000 salaries and could pay something like $1,200 a month for rent. So that's what we did. We were able to make a profit. And that's how we were able to make great opportunities, not with our eyes, but we created them with our mind. Sunil helped me figure out that what I was doing with my own apartment, I could do for others. And this is where my business was able to take off. And while I was, okay, so that was my business. And I did all of this without any email database, without any speaking skills, with no social media, no marketing skills. I had another full-time job, and we'll talk about that. No sales skills and no coaching skills. And I went from music teacher to property manager in about 3 years. And I went from zero to about $150,000 gross. So my first year in business, I earned about 60K. The second year in business, I was up to 150K. Because I was in the right place at the right time, this is where my full-time job came in. I was on a cycling team, and we were cycling probably like 28 hours a week or so. But the thing that most importantly I want to bring home to you guys is that through all of these different transitions, through living in the States, moving overseas, is that my family was the biggest supporter. Now, I'm not married, I don't have any children, but I have a lot of family. I have my parents and I've got 2 brothers. And I don't say this lightly, that my family has always been there and supported me. They have not always believed in what I was doing, but they always believed in me that I would make it work. And they are the ones, because in adversity, you find out who your true friends are. You find out who your true supporters are. Because see, the best thing about going through a crisis is you get rid of the excess. Whether you've lost your job, or you know someone who has had their business shut down, or your income has reduced, maybe you're not certain what the future holds, is you're going through probably a lot of uncertainty right now. You might be going through a lot of stress and overwhelm. And when you're not sure what's happening, I can promise that whatever crisis that you're going through right now, as sick as it sounds, is probably the best thing for you, because you find out who you are and you find out who your supporters are. See, when everything is good, you've got lots of friends, but when things get tough, suddenly it's like, where'd all your friends go? And my parents may not have wanted me to go overseas, but every time I asked anything for them to help back here in the States, they were there. And they trust in my ability to make things happen. And sometimes I have had to lean on that and know that they believe in me, even if they don't quite see the business visions that I have, that I know that they believe in me. Yeah, Laura, I hear you, girl. Because they are my why, because they've been there for me. Even when they didn't understand why I was doing what I was doing, they had my back, and they were supporting me with housing. They would take me back and forth to the airport. They would loan me a car. They'd put me up in their house, food, laundry, love, nursing me back to health when I got food poisoning. And so I owe this whole seminar, I owe the coaching, all of these things, I owe this towards my family. And I do this for my family and my brother's children. So I want to let you know, and I don't share this with you to impress you because I don't have anything to prove. I share this with you because I want you to know that you're in the right place. You're with someone who cares about you, cares about you as a person, who cares about your family and about the vision that you have. And if you are a black sheep of the family like I am, who does crazy things, like nobody in my family goes out and gets a music degree. Nobody in my family travels abroad. Nobody in my family has started a business. That if you're the black sheep of the family, but you know that you've got that calling inside of you, that you are in the right place. And there's going to be people here on this training who are starting from literally from scratch, who've got no closings. They don't even know where to get clients from any lead generation method, whether it's Facebook or in person. They don't know how to, and there are people in this training who don't even know how to convert a lead to a client on the phone. They don't know how to have a follow-up strategy or what that even means. And that's okay, because you're in the right place. And there are some people who are a little bit more advanced, some people who already have some closing and already have traction, but maybe you're not consistent. Or maybe you're working 12 to 16 hours a day, spinning your wheels, trying to make it work, but you're just not getting anywhere. You're not getting to the place you need to. And then there's a third category of people who are not even sure if they want to be an agent anymore. And they're sitting on the fence whether they want to renew their license or go do something else. Now that the world is opening up, things are getting all back to normal. And maybe your friends and family are telling you that, yes, you can do this. You can do this. But you're scared. You're also in the right place. And I know, because a lot of the people I work with are in this chasm of the unknown, and they're like, well, I have to make a decision. I either have to go all in or I have to go all out. And maybe they knew me when I was coaching back in real life, or maybe they knew me online, but you're in the right place. We got you. We got you here. So what I do want to know, I gave you a little bit of info about what my why is, about why I want to help people, why I am doing this. So I want to hear more about your why. I want you to type it into the chat. Why are you an agent? Why don't you go get a job? Why did you leave your job? What is a thing? What does it mean to you to have your freedom, to be independent? Type it into the chat. Type it into the chat. How many of you, do you want to impact lives? You just want to look at pretty houses? Wherever you are, type it into the chat. What is your why? What is the thing that drives you, that gets you up in the morning? It says, yes, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing, but I am going to stay on the path until I find out what it is that I need to do, because this is my calling. This is my mission. All right, light up the chat screen here. Write me your why. Is it family? Maybe you need to help a loved one. All right, we got people from all over. Yes, yes, yes. Kevin, awesome. Kevin says he wants to be there, have more time to spend doing what I want to and give back. What I want to give back. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I know I feel myself wanting to give so much, so much. Yes. Laura, yeah, freedom to be with your kids. And because you've got a calling to utilize interior design degree and love new construction. Yes, these beautiful houses. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, and if you are watching this in replay format, I want you to write down in the comments below, what is your why? I haven't forgotten about you. I want you to write down in the comments, what is your why? What is your why? Okay, now we talked about what is your why. Let's see, where do you want to be in 6 months? Why are you here or where are you now? And why are you here? Because we always need a crystal clear vision of where we're going in the 6 months time. And the outcome of this masterclass is to move you just 1 or 2 or 3 steps closer to closing that gap in that goal. So where do you want to be? Dimple, I love it. Financial freedom to make your own schedule. Yes, I love that too. Love meeting people. Have many good friends who started as clients. Oh, awesome. Dimple, I love it. I love it. How many clients do you want to have 6 months from now? Where do you want to be 6 months from now? Write it in the chat. Do you want to be 5 closings a month, 1 closing a month, 10 closings a month? What is your number? Maybe it's monetary. Maybe say, hey, I want to have $10,000 a month. Maybe say, I want to have $20,000 a month. Maybe just say, I don't know. Okay, yeah, awesome. Kevin, thanks. Maybe I'll be able to close 4 a month, have 2 to 3 transactions a month. Right on. Yeah, that would just relieve a lot of the stress. Now, we also need to know the reality of where we are on our situation right now. Awesome, Courtney, 5 to 6 closings a month. Right on. Yep, cool. So a lot of you are on 0. If you are on 0 right now, that's okay. Write in, you don't have to write this in the chat, but just think in your mind, where are you right now? Are you on 0, Do you have clients? Maybe you've got some buyers who haven't signed anything. And most importantly, I want you to write down the why you want to get from where you are into where you are, but write that down. You wrote it in the chat, and I want you to have it down on paper, because we talked about when you write something down, whether or not you reread it, the act of taking it from a thought to physicality to outside of your brain, that writing process will actually solidify it down. Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, this is all really great, guys, because it's super important that because I want you to connect with it, because in reality, there's going to be challenges and there's going to be setbacks. And if you don't know why you're doing this, here's the thing, you're going to be tricked. Your ego is going to trick you into thinking that you don't need it. It's going to change your feelings when things get tough, and you won't even be aware of it. It'll trick you in your own voice. So, and what I mean by this is I want you could imagine it, or you can do it. I want you to hold your breath, and I want you to give all for 2 minutes, and I want you to give all of the thought, all of the willpower in the world to holding your breath. Well, after 30 seconds, you might be okay. After 45 seconds, your brain might be thinking, it's time to breathe, but you're like, no, I'm going to do this. And eventually your ego is going to whisper in your ear, you're going to breathe now. What's the downfall of it? There's no reason not to do it. And so you breathe, right? If you're underwater, you might suck it up a little bit longer, but you know you need to get to the surface to get that air. But it's your ego telling you in your own voice, in your head, you're going to do this now because you're uncomfortable. So that is the power of the ego. So if you want to build a sustainable business so that you can impact more lives, let's do this, guys. It's your family's lives. It's your lives, spouses' lives, your clients' lives. It's your community's life. You be the leader in your community, because the truth is, when you've got influence and confidence, certainty, you can help more people. And I'm going to encourage you to type a big fat yes, YES, in the chat if you want to build your sustainable real estate business. Light it up, YES, in the chat. Again, if you are on the replay, I want you to type in the comments down below, YES, because you want to impact lives. Yeah, light up the screen. Yeah, Dimple. Yeah, Kevin. Awesome. Courtney, yes, absolutely. Okay, because here is where we're really going to get into debunking a couple of the things that and the patterns that I've seen. Now, how many of you guys in the real estate business? Yes, Laura, awesome. How many of you guys have been given conflicting advice about what to do? We're going to talk about mistakes. And before we talked about the fake COVID news and the exaggerations and the this way or that way, the oxygen, the mask, the vaccination, there's all of this going around about real estate as well. And if you're building a business based on confusion or fiction or not really sure what you're doing, then you're always going to suffer, and you're not going to get to that. Sustainable business. So in real estate, there's also fake news spreading like a virus. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Okay, the first one is, and some of you may have already heard me talk about this, it's all about the leads. But in actual fact, it's not all about the leads. It's not all about the leads. They're just a little tiny part of it. It's like saying the sand is the beach, right? We'll just move on. It's not all about the leads. See, when I moved back to the States, my first move was to join a real estate company. And it just happened to be the one that my sister-in-law was in, because I wanted to be with my family. So there we are. And they said, call your sphere, buy leads, market yourself, give out the pop by, send cards each day, send out letters, take more training, blah. And all that was money. I didn't really even have a plan from it. So like you, Laura, you've seen this before. I got lots of certifications. I was like, you know what? New construction, that's my jam. And the services online that are selling you leads without mentioning any names they know this. They know that you think that you need leads. So guess what? That's what they're selling you. And I went through all sorts of postcards and things that wouldn't work. I went into inherited houses. My brokerage didn't like that. So I was working with distressed properties. I actually started working with home buyer guys who had the leads. And they were like, we'll teach you everything you need to know. Spoiler alert, they did not teach me. They did give me tons of leads and I had great conversations. I made great friends, but I still couldn't convert them. Even after 3 months, they said, you know what? This isn't working out. You go. And so I am proof that even an extroverted, personable person couldn't convert the leads that were given because I didn't know at the time, but I didn't have the skills. I knew, I was like, what do I say to them? I don't know what to do next. So I totally thought the leads were it. They were the thing. They were the thing I was missing. And I thought that everyone around me, because that's what they said that they needed. So I struggled to get them. Oh, I got the leads and I'd be good. But I still struggled. One, I needed to know how to talk to them and how to bring them down the conversation funnel. Because once I did, it wasn't just the conversation script because they weren't ready. Okay, well, if you're not ready, what do I say now? I need to, I didn't have a plan to nurture them other than to call and say, hey, what's up? You ready yet? And then after the transaction, I needed to know how to keep them around, to keep doing business together. So even though we thought leads were it, what is actually it is that you need a whole cycle. You need a complete sales cycle. And I'm actually going to skip one of these slides real quick. Okay. So the complete sales cycle looks like this. You have 5 steps. You have collect the people's information. Then you got to connect to them. You talk to them. Then you convert them either through appointment or through conversation. You conduct the business, you get through the whole transaction, and then afterwards you celebrate, you keep them in the family. Because if you can do step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is when you make money. This is the more lives that you can impact. And I want to share with you that one of the clients I worked with, this is Rose, and she was under the impression that all she needed were some more leads. She needed better leads. And she was actually struggling because she was buying leads, but they weren't very good. She just needed to figure out what to say to them. And she was feeling a little bit lost, like she didn't know what plan to go. So what she did was she came to me and we did this initial strategy session, about 45 minutes. We gave her a couple of structures, couple of frameworks. We gave her a strategy moving forward to help with a follow-up, to get her crystal clear on what she wanted. We looked at some of the challenges that were getting in the way with her strategy. And then I gave her some tools to work on, and she and I practiced together talking to people. And here's the thing, is that her brokerage, her company was already giving her all of these leads. So she knew that she needed leads, but she didn't know what to do with them when she got them. So she's like, well, leads are everything. And then afterwards, she realized leads are not everything. And Cindy, I actually want to share a story with you about Cindy. She was one of my students, one of my former students, and she was actually in a difficult personal situation because her husband had just passed away, and so she was a single mother. So she was like, I have to make this work. She's like, it's my daughter, my son, and me. And she's like, I have to make this work. She had never had a job before because her husband was the breadwinner. But she's like, you know what? I got to do this. She's like, I need to make more money than I can for whatever entry-level position I have. So when we got in contact, she was an agent for 6 months. She had 0 closings. And she had just taken a part-time job as a substitute teacher because she was not getting any results with her real estate. She did have a few leads coming in, but she didn't really know what to do with them, and they weren't answering the phone. So now when Cindy came in, we did this initial strategy session, about 45 minutes. We got together, we talked, we mapped out a 6-month plan, and we got crystal clear on where she wanted to go after 6 months. We looked at some of the challenges that looked like they were getting in the way with her strategy and how she was doing it. And then I helped her help her get the tools that she needed. And we practiced talking to people. We helped her with her flow, with her lead flow. And after the strategy session, she decided to jump into the program. She was not only able to get 3 closings a month while she was working this other full-time job, more importantly, she increased her confidence talking to people, knowing that when she knew what to say to these leads, when they did answer, she was so much more confident because she knew how to care for the lead all the way around the cycle. And here's the thing with Cindy. She was super skeptical too, jumping in with me. She was like, well, I don't know if this is really the thing I need. But she realized that having a full sales cycle was what she was looking for, because she even had a mentor inside of her company that was working with her. But the mentor wasn't giving her the things that she needed. And the mentor, she didn't know what questions to ask her mentor. I want to know from you guys, have you guys ever had somebody that was designated to you as a mentor who didn't seem to be able to help you out? I want you to give me a, what can you give me? Hashtag no help. We'll do no help in the chat. If your mentor didn't know what questions to answer for you, or have you ask them, because this is another thing that I've seen just too much going on. Okay, the next one I think is going to be impactful for a lot of people. And this is another thing. Yeah, Dimple, awesome, Kevin, awesome. Yeah. I had a mentor that was always about them. Okay, cool. Now, this next mistake is number 2, always about themselves. Yeah, right. Because if you're in production, then you're not full-time on education as well. If you're working on doing your own job, you're not always thinking about bringing somebody else, being like, okay, this is what you need to do incrementally. Okay, the next mistake is thinking that you are not motivated or that you are lazy. And the real truth is, and then some of you have heard me talk about this before, is that procrastination is a protective strategy. Remember that ego we talked about? That ego is trying to protect you for dealing with conflicting motivations or overwhelming information. Now, this quote captures a certain perspective. It's a way of thinking about procrastination. We can think of it as a bad habit, for instance, but I want you to consider more deeply, to introspect and look inside at what's going on when you are procrastinating. Because when we can overcome those roots, this is where we can flourish and thrive. And so a different understanding of what procrastination is comes in a couple of frameworks and theories, which I'm going to talk to you about. But it's not an ethical or a moral sense. What I want you to think about is that procrastination is not shameful. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a flaw. It's actually pretty predictable. And so if you have any trash talk in your head about procrastination right now, I release you of it, because it is not your fault that you are procrastinating. There is too much other things going on in your life. Let me give you an example. I want you to imagine it's 9 a.m. You're in your office. You know you need to lead generate. Okay, it's been a hectic morning so far. Kids off to school, breakfast, partners, dogs, kids, 15 million emails, text messages, Facebook, all these things. Okay, you sit down, you get ready to tackle lead generation. You think, okay, I'm going to check my email just for a minute. Let me get that out of the way. Anybody ever done that? I want you to type hashtag email mornings, hashtag email. If you do this in the morning, you check your email as soon as you get up before you start lead generating. Show me in the chat over here, light it up. Email mornings. Yeah, I hear you. So 45 minutes later, you've checked a lot of email, you've gotten a lot of information, made a bunch of decisions, and you've done a really good job at that. So now you realize, you know what? I'm pretty tired. I need a cup of coffee. So you go get yourself a cup of coffee. You're like, you know what? I'm a little tired. I'm exhausted, in fact. That's not very conducive to talking to people. I need to be high energy to talk to people and get things done. So what do I need? Yeah, I need to go to sleep. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Okay, I'll go to sleep. I'll get rested, wake up in a few hours, then I'll make the calls. You set that alarm. You may or may not wake up on time, then you feel bad about it. So there is a cycle that happens, and so you think, all right, I've overslept my alarm. Now, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. I should have been lead generating this whole time. You know, I'll give up. I'll just do it tomorrow. I'll just do it tomorrow. And so what has happened is you have started a procrastination cycle where you don't do something when you need to do it, then you feel guilty, you doubt yourself, you feel helpless, and then you don't do anything, you feel guilty. So in order to break that loop, what we're actually going to do is we need to start balancing. Skip this next one. We need to start balancing life because you lack clarity on what you're doing. You've got too much uncertainty, too many decisions that you're making. And this actually takes away from the clarity of what you need to do every day. We have a balance in life. We have certainty and uncertainty. Uncertainty, certainty. And when the gap gets too big between what is certain in our life and what is uncertain, that's when we start procrastinating. So things that would be certain would be like, hey, I know a cup of coffee. I know a nap. I know email. What's uncertain is, well, what's going to happen when I call people? I don't want to deal with rejection. I don't want to do these new things. So especially when we start a business, the gap gets bigger and bigger. So when you can bring down the uncertainty to know exactly what to do every day, bring up the certainty to say, you know what? I've got more certain things in my life. I wake up at the same time every day. I wake up when I set my alarm. I work out every day. I know what I'm going to eat. You can start to close the gap. And this is the gap of the uncertainty, certainty, procrastination. When you can get these two closer together, this is where you have more action because you've got that clarity. So I'm actually going to share with you one of my students. This is Amanda. I remember when we first started working together, she was a high achiever on another real estate team, but she was being given all of her leads. So she didn't have to go after them. She contacted me because she didn't know what to do, where to put her efforts. So she wanted to eventually open her own brokerage. And her company had stopped giving her leads, so she didn't really know what she was supposed to do, right? She wanted to open her own brokerage. So she contacted me. We went through an initial strategy session, a 45-minute session where we got crystal clear on what she wanted. We looked at some of the challenges that were getting in her way for her with her strategy. We worked on some tools to get her over the hump of what she was working on. And actually, after the strategy session, she decided to jump on the program with me. And since she was in the same town, we actually went out door knocking together. And out of the 3 houses that we spoke to, the first person offered us her information. The second person said, well, we're not going to sell right now, maybe in 6 months. And the last person that we talked to said she did want to sell, but she didn't know where to go. So I said, this is perfect. I was like, let's just go somewhere. Let's go to her neighborhood and we can find her a house there. So, and here's the thing with Amanda, she was not wanting to cold call or do cold outreach. So she was an outgoing person like me. So she wanted to meet people. And when she uncovered her superpower, she was able to discover the way that worked best for her to meet people. So do you guys see the power of these strategy sessions of actually finding out the path and the way to get to where you're going? Because when you remove all of those obstacles, you can suddenly see the path clearly. Yeah? Okay, this mistake is this is mistake number 3. You guys still with me? Give me 2 thumbs up in the chat. Let me just see. Whoa! All right, cool. Hey, Rochelle. I love the little thumb. Yeah. Like I've got a lot of screens I'm moving between here. I'm looking at the chat, looking at the videos. Okay, the mistake number 3. Now, this is something that usually strikes a lot of people and they think, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I did not see that. Here's the thing. Your real estate company is not there to educate you. There are 2 million agents inside of the US. And 87% of them fail in the first 5 years. And the only reason it's 5 years and not 2-3 years is because after you finish your first cycle of real estate licensing, they say, go ahead and get your next licensure. So you're already done the recertifications to get your second one. Now, let me ask you this. If 87% are failing in 5 years, is it because that many people are not intelligent enough to take advantage of the education? That means 1.7 million agents are leaving the business every 5 years. That means only 260,000 agents in the United States, that's 52 agents per state, are successful, are in the business longer than 5 years. Does that not blow your mind? Does that not blow your mind? Really? Oh my gosh. So the thing that is sad for me is that it takes more training for a hairstylist to get a beautician's license than it does for a real estate agent to get their real estate license. So we have to figure out what is going on here? What is going on? And if you're on this training, I know we are not part of that 87%. I want you to say it out loud right now. That's not me. That's not me. I'm doing it the right way. You don't have to unmute, but just say out loud, say, that's not me. That's not me. Yeah. Because if you have a mentor in your real estate company, that mentor is probably also in production, and that mentor is probably not educated with an education degree and has probably not learned all of the pillars of education and how to teach people. And if you look at the money flow, real estate companies are actually in the sales business. When a real estate agent makes a sale or signs on with a company, the money flows to the company. The only reason that the company pays the agent is after the company has taken a cut out of the agent's paycheck. Now, the real estate companies are in the sales business because if you look at the money flow, where does the money flow? If you, because you are earning the money. So if you were to go buy a car, the car does not hire you, right? No, you actually give money and then you get the car. So that's kind of what's happening with the real estate companies. And the thing they don't tell you is that it's a huge mindset shift. They say things like, oh, we'll hire you, but it's not actually hiring you. You're actually hiring the company. They want to change your focus. And all right, so let me give you a quick story about my one of the people I worked with, Pamela. She actually wanted to share with you because she is one of my former students. She signed on with me and she got 2 contracts her first week. Now, she was an agent for 4 years and she was about to let her license lapse because she was like, I'm not making any money. And she was ready to just let it go. So she jumped onto my program because she had no results with her brokerage, even though she had a mentor. And when she came to me, we did this initial 45-minute strategy session. So we got clear on where she wanted to go. We looked at the challenges that were standing in her way. Then we gave her some tools to work with, and she adapted it to her situation. After the strategy session, she decided to jump in the program, and she was able to get 2 more clients by focusing on one specific strategy and get good at it. And here's the thing with Pamela. She was super skeptical that it wouldn't work. And she had even tried this one method before, but we just made a couple of tweaks and she was able to get it done. She was able to actually be successful. How cool is that, right? To take something that you had already known to not work and actually tweak it to make it work. How powerful would that be to have somebody help you out with your current strategy? Okay, now, whoops. I want to talk to you about the 4th one. Now, this is a really big one that a lot of agents work with. A lot of agents are dealing with. Is like, oh, I am always available. I am a 7-Eleven for you. All hours of the day, I will take your call. All hours of the day, I will answer you. Text. You want a CMA and it's 11:59? Okay, sure, I'll do that for you. So don't be that agent. Set your hours as though you are an actual business. Too many agents work harder Too many agents work harder and not smarter, especially early on. Instead of sitting down and just sketching out a plan for what you want out of business, we just start working. And I found that when you just jump into a business, especially when you're new, it has a lot of negative results in the long run if you don't establish a plan first. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to set specific business hours because habits are important. Routines will alleviate your anxiety. It will promote your healthy habits and combat the burnout. Because creating a routine does not happen in one day. It does not happen all at once. You set a skeleton and then you adjust it for regular life. So here is an example schedule. And this is where I recommend you start, and then you can tweak it for your own life, right? So 9 to 11, lead generation, every single day, Monday to Friday. Or if you take Friday off, do it on Saturday. Again, adjust it for your life. And then from 11 to 12, you do follow-up. 12 to 1, you do admin. And I say do admin because I found if I do admin after lunch, I don't always get all the admin done. So do the follow-up, do their admin, then take your lunch break, clear your head, go do other stuff. And then you've got space for appointments in the afternoon. 2, 3:30, 5 o'clock, 6:30. Make sure you give yourself enough time for traveling in between the appointments. An appointment, it could be about an hour, and then you've got travel time. And again, this is just a structure to start building, but do lead generation every morning and appointments in the afternoon. Okay, I'm going to skip over to the next one. There we go. Okay, now this is a good one, and this is a really good one though. So being terrified of failure. Now I'm going to talk kind of fast like this because I don't want to run out of time, but this is a really impactful one. And this is, I think, going to clear up a lot of the misconceptions that you have. It has to do with self-worth, confidence, because I want you to listen to the things that you tell yourself in your head, right? This is what we call self-talk. These are the lies and the stories that we tell ourselves. Something like, I'm a terrible driver. I don't have the skills to start a business. Like, I'm hopeless at math. Can't keep a home organized. I want you to tell me in the chat over here if you've ever had any of this head trash. I want you to do hashtag head trash over there because these are just ridiculous statements. Now, after you type head trash, I want you to also write in, what is that one thing that you tell yourself that you're not good at? Like, hey, you know what? I may be good at driving a car, but I'm really not good with directions. What is it that you tell yourself that you are not good at? Maybe it's, well, for me, it's cooking, right? I mean, people will be like, hey, Kat, it only takes 30 minutes to make. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try it. And somehow I attempt it and it turns out to be something like 3 hours. And then things aren't working. And I'm like, you told me to put the lasagna pieces in, but you didn't tell me to cook them first. I need these little directions. Anyway, so cooking is not my jam. But what is it for you that you tell yourself is not your jam? What do you tell yourself is not your jam? So I'll say cooking, not my jam. Whoop, I wrote jam. Right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Dimple. Thanks. All right. So I'm gonna tell you a little story real quick. And this is a story that you may have told yourself again and again. So you went to elementary school. You got a mark on your paper, and that mark was an A+. You brought it home and you're like, Mom or Dad, look at this. And they say, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. You are so smart. Wow. Hugs. And your thoughts inside your head, I'm smart. My parents love me and therefore I love me. Now, same scenario. We take this same thing. You go to school and maybe you didn't quite do as well. You got a 7 out of 10. You didn't fail it because you didn't get 100% like last time, but remember a week ago, what you heard is you did so well because you were so smart. And so if you take this home, what is the obvious conclusion to your 7-year-old brain or your middle school or your high school, even your adult night must not, is that you're not, this isn't as good. You must not be as smart after all. No hugs. And so this is what we just talked about, how you tell yourself stories about things that you're not okay at. And this little girl or this little child then hears, I'm not smart and my parents love me less, therefore I love me less. And this obviously is not correct. However, when you're 7, you don't have that higher understanding of this. Reimagine this scene. You come home from school and you reimagine that one tiny change. Instead of saying, hey, you got A+, that's amazing, you're so smart. Imagine if your mom or dad or your caregiver said to you, wow, you must have worked pretty hard. One tiny change about your effort. And then what happens the next time you come home and you take a test with that 70%? This time, you think to yourself, wow, I did not work hard enough on this. Now, if you're still thinking to yourself that, no way, man, I'm not hung up on that after this many years later, I want you to remember that your beliefs about the world are all formed between 0 and 7 years old. So if you have not upgraded your beliefs in yourself and done that inner work, then you might still be having these habitual feelings of not being good enough. And if you think these little wording changes don't make a difference, I'm going to tell you a quick story about a study that was done that actually proves that these tiny changes do make a difference. It was done by a Stanford researcher called Carol Dweck, and she repeated the study with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students in elementary schools. Now, if students in elementary schools all across the United States, what they did is they gave the kids 10 hard problems to solve. And all of these problems were taken from a nonverbal IQ test, so like math and patterns and other problems that the kids did mostly pretty well on. Then Carol and her team did one of two things for half of the kids. They said to them, for the first group, wow, you got 8 right. That's a really good score. You must be really smart. So here, the kids were praised for their ability. The other half of the kids were told, wow, you got 8 right. That's a really good score. You must have worked really hard. And they praised the kids for their effort. The ability kids were told that they were smart. So failure then meant they were deficient. The effort praised kids did not think the problem were any kind of reflection on their intelligence. So they offered all of the kids a chance to complete a challenging task that could teach them something new. And 98% of the kids agreed. But the ability kids were not interested in doing a thing that would make them question their ability. So the only difference on the next time was that the kids that did the problem, the first time the kids all did the problems, the kids enjoyed the exercise. But after the ability kids were complimented on their ability, they did not do well on the second set of problems. They didn't like the work anymore, and the efforts were the opposite. The effort kids were the opposite. They loved those harder problems. They said that these problems were the most fun, even when they didn't get them right. The researchers gave the ability kids the easy problems to do. And then based on the results of the first set of problems that should have been a breeze because because their intelligence had been called into question, they actually wound up doing worse in the efforts and failed through the set. And one last little bit about this study, which is equal parts fascinating and horrifying. The researchers told the kids, hey, we're going to do this study with some other kids at another school. Can you write them a little letter and tell them what you think about this? And they gave them a page where they could write down their thoughts and a space where they had to write down their score on the test. So 40% of the kids who were praised on their ability lied about their score. So when Carol Dweck, the researcher, talks about this, she says, we took ordinary people and turned them into liars by telling them they were smart. Like, does that not just get you in the heart? Like, just stop you in your tracks for a second. I mean, when our parents told us, you're so smart, you're so talented, they did not give this to us with bad intentions. I mean, they did not mean to turn you into whatever this fixed mindset is, who's afraid of failure. But so oftentimes, this is what happens to us. And so most of us are terrified of failure because we think that it is a reflection of our self-worth, which is absolutely not the case. And so I want to show you a real quick story about Chris, who actually came to me because he was feeling bad. He was having self-worth issues about his lead generation plan because he was not on social media. He wanted to be successful, but he didn't know what to do. And his company wasn't really giving him the support he needed. So he was feeling a little bit lost, left behind. He got on a strategy session with me, and we actually went through, we had some clarity on where he was going. We helped him overcome the obstacles that he had in his way and gave him the tools so that he could move forward. And after signing on, he realized that he could lead generate in his own way. He worked at the military base, and so he had a bunch of people around him. He was able to talk to the people at military base. He was able to talk to the people at the gym where he went to work out. And now he has a plan that works for him. And he realized that his self-worth was not tied to lead generation. It was only tied to nothing, which himself, because he had a network around him that he could lean into. And so what I want to do with going through all of these 5 mistakes is I want to bring you back to the start. And I want you to tell me, what thought patterns did you notice in yourself while we were going through the mistakes, while I was talking about my story? Type it into the chat. What sort of thoughts, thought patterns, or beliefs did you notice that seemed weird to you? That didn't make sense? Maybe it was Kiyosaki. Maybe it was the children study where it's smart and effort. What part was it that blew your mind? Write it in the chat. Write it in the chat right now as we wrap up. As we wrap up here, write it in the chat. What sort of things blew your mind? What are the beliefs? You can take yourself off of mute if you can share. Or if you're just busy, type it in the chat. Keep on going. Type it in the chat. Type it in the chat. Because some of this stuff is just, yeah, Kevin, the mindset of being great and then not be like, oh, you're so smart, except when you don't, except when you don't get good grades, right? Yeah. This stuff is crazy. Stuff is crazy. So real quick, I want to give to you the recession-proof detailed step-by-step lead generation, also that you are now hired. Yeah, right on, Kevin. I'll give you a quick step-by-step recession-proof. So, oh, this is cool. Somehow you are able to, Rochelle, draw on the screen. Interesting. Okay, well, we're learning stuff about Zoom all the time. No problem, no problem. Yeah, I don't really, I haven't experimented with that before. Okay, but real quick, I wanted to give you the branding. This is where you actually carve out your niche into the market, where you say, hey, look, I am the military expert. I know how to help military people. And so you go then and create the value, the thing that they need to help them take the next step forward. You give them the strategy, or you have the strategy that you can get in contact with them. You know their pain points, so you're able to convert them. You know how to preempt all their objections and the best way to serve them, so you're able to conduct a better business appointment. And then, because you know it's military, you have their expertise, or you have the expertise to help them. So I want to invite you, there are 10,000 different combinations to do things. In the real estate world, it is mind-boggling with all the information out there. Okay, I'm about to give you the key to all of this, to help you get from where you are now to where you want to be. And what that looks like, it's going to be your strategy. So hopefully you've gotten a couple of steps closer now to actually move forward. And I want to ask you, what strategy are you going to have, are you going to use over the next 6 months? And so I want to give you the link to book a strategy session, the 6-month strategy session, where we can actually build out a plan for you. I'm going to drop the link in the chat here, and it is coming up. And if you are watching this on replay, I want you to look at the chat now, at the comments down below, because this will be down in the comments below. This is a game plan session. It'll go for about 45 minutes. It's a customized complimentary session for you. So if you hurry up and you want to get yourself back on track, then go ahead and book yourself in. Okay, you'll see a calendar, find a spot that works for you, just pick one, and then I will see you on my calendar. And we got about 1 minute left. If you have any questions, I want to, there we go. Calendly.com real estate. Okay. There we go. Here we go. Anybody have any questions about what you have heard today? Everybody take yourself off of mute, because we are about to end our session. Dimple, hey there. Kevin, thanks. Thanks for joining today.
You. Thank you.
Real quick, we got about 30 seconds. Tell me a KTA. Tell me a key takeaway from today.
Definitely the growth mindset part, like the whole thing about mindset and how to frame compliments and bring it forward, how you can do that. I found that very interesting.
Awesome. Kevin, could you go into the group and write that on the wall, put it up there? Awesome. Okay, cool. We have one more. Dimple?
I would say setting boundaries for your clients and not thinking you have to be available all the time. I think I get texts at 7 in the morning and I feel the need to answer them right away.
Outside of business hours.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I so appreciate you guys. I would love to hear more from Carl and Laura, but I want to respect your time. I want to make sure that we are off at hour 3 o'clock. So I just want to send you guys on to your next appointment. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. This was a fun thing. Go into the Facebook group, write in the KTA, write your key takeaway in there, and then write down what you found most impactful. I will see you guys later. Send me a message if you have any more questions. Okay, bye.
Thanks.